David Blaine is still in that box and Eamon Holmes goes to visit. Tonight with Trevor McDonald at 8, here on ITV1.
High Street horror, another fatal shooting as gun crime spirals out of control.
These guys had no respect for anybody. They just opened up and sprayed 35 bullets at someone.
Child abuse arrests after dawn raids on a Scottish island.
Judge tells Blunkett to butt out of road hump court case.
And I'm no Nazi. Arnie's campaign is hit by new allegations.
The ITV Evening News with Mark Austin and Katie Derry.
Good evening. Another day, another horrific shooting. One victim dead, one seriously injured. This time it happened in the sleepy English town of Hoddesdon in Hertfordshire, just yards from a busy market. In a scene once unthinkable in Britain, two men jumped from a van and let fly with a hail of automatic gunfire. They're still on the run this evening. Paul Davis is at the crime scene tonight. Paul.
Well, just hours after the government promised action to stamp it out, the curse of gun crime returned to this street, and this time with a gangland-style killing. It's a curse that has left this community, like so many before it, wondering tonight just how safe is a town they thought they knew. It's a scene that's become depressingly familiar this week and so many weeks before. Police officers searching another British street for clues to another brutal shooting. This time it seems the victim was targeted, gunned down as he and another man left this gymnasium. The killer used an automatic weapon. More than 30 spent cartridges were left on the pavement before the gunman drove away. Paul Bryan's fish and chip shop overlooks the gymnasium. He thought he was hearing a prolonged burst of fireworks.
We looked out of the window. The car directly underneath our shop was, the windows were all blown out. There was a guy lying on the floor next to, on the passenger side, lying down in just shorts and a t-shirt. He'd been shot in the chest. Had a friend with him. He was running around, like, obviously in shock.
The police are trying to suggest that as a targeted killing, this gun violence was not aimed at the public.
This is a really unusual incident, and our initial inquiries would suggest that there really isn't a general threat to people that live here or indeed in the surrounding area.
But that argument is rejected by a mother who says bullets entered her property and she'd walked her daughter along this street minutes before the shooting started.
I just took my daughter to school. If I'd been any later, with the bullets going, it could have easily been one of my kids that got hit, and that's frightening, you know, because they went everywhere. So, but, you know, it starts to make you wonder if you are safe anymore, you know. It's a quiet town. It doesn't happen here.
Hoddesdon High Street and its busy marketplace are just yards from the scene of the shooting. Here we heard claims that gun crime was changing the town's character.
It's basically like a Wild West town. I brought my children out here thinking it was a nice sleepy town, nice area to live. And basically it's a beautiful area, but it's unprotected.
And the protection most people want to see is more police visible on the streets every day, not just when someone is shot. Within the last few minutes, the police have said that the victim of this shooting was a 32-year-old man from Stevenage. He's not been named. They've asked for public help to trace two men seen running away from a burnt-out car in a nearby estate. And they have confirmed that they have found a weapon, though they're not saying that it was the weapon used in this attack.
Paul, thank you. And today's shootings are just the latest in a series of brutal gun crimes to scar Britain. This year was barely hours old when Letitia Shakespeare and Charlene Ellis died in a hail of bullets at a New Year party in Birmingham. Last month, 7-year-old Tony Ann Byfield was murdered in a North London bedsit by a gunman who had just killed her father. And just 3 days ago, jewellery shop owner Marion Bates was gunned down by robbers in Nottingham. Today, her grieving husband, who survived the attack, spoke to ITV News. Victor Bates said the extra police trumpeted by the Home Secretary are simply not visible on the streets. Tim Rogers reports.
There is no sign of the sentiment abating. Feelings are still running high in Arnold, the district of Nottingham, where Marion Bates was murdered. What happened here has opened a public debate about gun crime and policing. Victor Bates, still bearing the scars, was a quiet man who has found a voice, asking questions that many others here are repeating.
I didn't think it could be ever this bad. I might have get jabbed with a knife. I might get something with a pickaxe handle. I never thought or dreamed that anybody would murder or try and murder my daughter or my wife in front of my very eyes. And I'm angry. I'm very, very angry. And my friends are angry. And it's time this country stood up and be counted like my poor wife did. I'm sorry.
And again, as his daughters did yesterday, he had a message for the government.
Good God, Mr. Blunkett, get those mandarins in the Home Office to do what you tell them and instruct the chief constables to do what they tell them. Because you appoint them, the local watch committee no longer appoints them, and it's time they were made to bring law and order to our streets. Please, please, please.
Police here say that resources are short, but the demands of the modern service are that more work goes on behind the scenes than people are aware of. But they also say they do what they can to be seen in public. In time, the emotions here have developed from shock to anger, but there's no sign of that anger dissipating. What people want here is for those responsible to be arrested, and to be arrested quickly. For now, the prayers of this community are with the Bates family and the hope that justice will prevail in the battle for the streets. Tim Rogers, ITV News, Nottingham.
And tonight an appeal has been set up for the family of Marion Bates. Contributions are being collected by the Nottingham Building Society. Katie.
Thanks. 4 people have been arrested in the Western Isles of Scotland after a nationwide child protection operation. They were held in a joint operation between police and social services in Stornoway. A number of other people have also been detained after raids by police forces across England. We're live now to our Scotland correspondent, Martin Geisler. Martin, what more can you tell us about this?
Well, Katie, I can update you, actually. I've just spoken to Northern Constabulary, the force who police the very north of Scotland and the Western Isles, and they've told me that in the last 15 minutes, 3 more people have been arrested in connection with this investigation into allegations of child abuse. Earlier today, that force arrested 13 people on the Isle of Lewis in the Western Isles. 4 of them have been charged in connection with these allegations. As you say, across England, a series of other arrests were made. It's all part of the same ongoing operation. It's an operation that has involved police forces across England, as well as Northern Constabulary and the Social Work Department of the Western Isles Council. Earlier today, they had this to say.
I can confirm that the Council's Social Work Department has been involved in a joint operation with Northern Constabulary in relation to a child protection matter. And beyond that, this is an ongoing inquiry, and I really aren't able to add anything further to that.
So far, though, 4 charged. They are expected to appear before Stornoway Sheriff Court on Monday.
OK, thanks very much, Martin.
A district judge told the Home Secretary today to butt out and stop interfering with his trial. The almost unprecedented outburst came after David Blunkett sympathised with a builder who dug up a speed hump. Judge Brian Loseley warned Mr Blunkett his comment could have influenced the case against Ian Beasley. Adrian Britton was in court.
Question: if you couldn't sleep at night because of lorries rattling over speed humps, would it drive you to do this? Ian Beasley, who used his own JCB to dig up the humps outside his home, complaining he was getting no sleep. Today, he was convicted of criminal damage after a strong rebuke from the judge, not against Mr Beasley, but against the Home Secretary for making sympathetic remarks while the case was still being considered.
I'm sure that the council will find a solution, and I think most people, whilst not condoning in any way what he did, will have a great deal of sympathy, especially those of us who, as age takes its toll, find it more difficult to sleep at night.
He could have been jailed for 3 months, but was only given a 1-year conditional discharge. District Judge Brian Loseley said he was sympathetic, but had strong words for the Home Secretary, saying, "I had to think carefully this morning about whether what Blunkett said yesterday was going to affect my decision in the case. Politicians should butt out of these cases until they're over. Then they can make as much comment as they like." Ian Beasley is claiming victory. The council has backed down, these speed humps have gone. Instead, there's this gradual incline to slow traffic. He's won sympathy from the judge. And more importantly, now he's getting his sleep. So once the non-sleeping builder who took on the sleeping policeman, now convicted but defiant.
I don't think there will be next time. If it comes to it, I'll do it again. I'm a man of my word.
As a builder, he works for the county council. Yes, you've guessed it, installing speed humps. Adrian Britton, ITV News, Oxford Magistrates Court.
An inquest has ruled that a black man who died after being restrained by 6 police officers was killed unlawfully. Roger Sylvester, who was 30, died 7 days after he was arrested in 1999 for banging doors outside his North London home. Today's verdict follows a long campaign by his family. Afterwards, they called for the Crown Prosecution Service to examine the evidence.
They were first introduced to deal with offences like speeding and litter. Now, on-the-spot fines will soon be handed out to the parents of children who truant. The fines will cost parents up to £100 a time. Now, this idea is the latest attempt to crack down on the 50,000 youngsters who play truant every day. But teachers and unions are warning that it won't solve the causes of truancy, and they fear it could be criminalising children. Joyce O'Haja reports.
These are among the 50,000 children not in school. Welfare officers say 16,000 are playing truant and half of those are with their parents. Around 11:30 this morning in London, we found these children aged under 16 out shopping with their mum.
We just moved to Gillingham. We actually came from London. We moved 2 weeks ago. She's due to start at school on Monday. She hasn't got one yet. And he's just starting, so hopefully...
I have started.
Yeah, I know you're just starting. That's what I said.
Under the new proposals, parents could be fined between £25 to £100 if their kids aren't in school. Police, education officers and head teachers could give out fixed penalty notices in the same way we're given a parking ticket. Last year, Patricia Amos was the first parent to be jailed for allowing her kids to play truant. Ministers say this is yet another measure.
We believe fixed penalty notices alongside parenting contracts and parenting orders have a very important role to play in making it clear to that small minority of parents that a basic requirement of being a parent in a civilised society is to ensure that your child goes to school.
This is Overton Grange School in Surrey, where attendance is 95%. But this is the exception rather than the rule. Every day in Britain, 50,000 children don't go to school, and many head teachers despair. But the head teacher here says asking schools to hand out fines is not the answer.
I think that it would be a very, very poor step to go with, because it would damage our relations with parents. We would be putting fines to parents, having to collect those fines. We should be dealing with the causes of the absenteeism.
Teachers and unions, though, do welcome additional powers being given to police and welfare officers. It supports their difficult task of getting kids back in the classroom. Joyce O'Haja, ITV News, Surrey.
There's more to come on the ITV Evening News, including first it was sex, now it's the Nazis who threaten Arnie's political future.
I despise everything that the Nazis stood for or Hitler stood for.
And football's rape allegation crisis, how will the fans react?
We'll hear the latest predictions when we come back.
Another fantastic Boots offer. Buy one, get one free on selected everyday toiletries. Now available in larger Boots stores.
Be stimulated by sport with the Rugby World Cup Handbook in the new Saturday Times.
Don't forget, there's a free flu jab recommended by GPs for everyone 65 or over and those in at-risk groups. If you're unsure, see your doctor.
Henry.
Beat the flu before it beats you.
Call your local surgery to book an appointment.
Welcome back. Now, he usually has starred in films about the future, but it's his past that's causing yet more trouble for Arnold Schwarzenegger. After allegations of groping, he's now been forced to deny that he was a Nazi sympathiser.
Yes, and with the vote for California governor now just days away, Arnie says he's expecting more allegations to be unloaded soon. From America, here's Andrea Catherwood.
The Schwarzenegger show rolls into town, Arnie and his campaign bus on a whistle-stop tour of California. Though he must surely now regret naming that bus the Predator, after allegations he groped women and now new claims that he's a Nazi sympathiser. It was back in his Mr. Universe days in the 70s that he supposedly gave an interview, a transcript of which appeared in this morning's papers. In it, he's alleged to have said, "I admire Hitler because he came from being a little man with no formal education up to power. I admire him for being such a good public speaker and for what he did with it." The same source claims he played Nazi marching songs at home and clicked his heels, pretending to be an SS officer. Claims that overnight Schwarzenegger hurriedly denied.
Again, I think I don't remember any of those comments because I always despised everything that Hitler stood for. I hated the regime.
But a leading Californian Democrat and Holocaust survivor has called for him to withdraw.
To have a man who is aspiring to be governor of our largest state praise Hitler is something utterly contemptible.
Schwarzenegger's supporters say Nazi accusations and anti-Arnie protests are last-ditch attempts to discredit their man. With 4 days to go, polls show him comfortably ahead. But the real-life race for governor could still prove to be Schwarzenegger's toughest role yet. Andrea Catherwood, ITV News in the United States.
The war of words over whether or not Iraq has weapons of mass destruction intensified today. Both Tony Blair and President Bush insisted the long-awaited American weapons inspector's report proves their case for going to war. Opponents deny that, pointing out that no actual weapons have been found at all. Our political correspondent Angus Walker is in Downing Street. Angus.
Katie, well, Mr. Blair may have avoided a serious embarrassment at this week's Labour conference over the war in Iraq, but the questions and doubts about the conflict just won't go away, and the investigations, inquiries and reports continue to be uncomfortable reading for Mr. Blair. Long-range rocket testing, one secret Iraqi activity related to weapons of mass destruction discovered by post-war inspectors. But no actual weapons have been found. So how is a war fought to disarm Saddam Hussein now being justified?
Are you still confident they'll find the weapons, Mr. Blair?
No answer from the Prime Minister in Downing Street today. Mr. Blair has remained confident for months that weapons of mass destruction will be found.
There are literally hundreds, possibly thousands of potential WMD sites that are still being investigated.
But although it seems weapons either didn't exist or are still hidden, the Foreign Secretary believes the limited findings vindicate the invasion of Iraq.
What this report does is to corroborate a significant part of what we were saying before the war.
Part of what you were saying,
yes.
That's the point though,
Yeah.
it's not corroborating all of what you were saying.
Allow me to finish. It corroborates part of what we were saying, a significant part of what we were saying before military action was taken, and it doesn't at any stage undermine what we were saying.
It's the failure to find any chemical weapons that's most embarrassing to the coalition. The survey group found Saddam's chemical program was reduced, if not totally destroyed, by the last Gulf War and subsequent inspections. The group did make discoveries, however, in the field of biological weapons, uncovering a clandestine network of laboratories which had been hidden from UN inspectors, and a vial of botulinum at an Iraqi scientist's home. Then there's Iraq's ballistic missile program. Saddam had ordered the development of long-range missiles, yet not one of these has been found, nor any evidence that they could have delivered chemical weapons. In the last few hours, the scientist heading the 1,400-strong inspection team has been briefing a US congressional committee.
It is our intention to finish this to the best of our ability in what we think will be 6 to 9 months from now.
So more time for inspections. Ironic, say those who opposed the war. You get a sense that both the UK and US governments have been on the back feet today, forced to defend their decision to attack Iraq. And for Mr Bush and Mr Blair, the longer the search for weapons continues, the more their options narrow. Both leaders do have a fallback position. That's simply to say that regime change was worth the war, was worth the conflict. Katie.
Thanks, Angus. The pressure's mounting this evening over what could be one of the biggest scandals the world of football has ever seen. 7 stars are now facing possible criminal charges following claims that a 17-year-old girl was raped. The fear now is that fans could chant the names of the players at matches this weekend. Now, that could be slanderous and might prejudice any future trial. Harry Smith reports.
It's the story that's been dominating the headlines. A story which would appear to have everything: wealthy young stars, sex and allegations of rape. Only one thing has been missing: the names of those involved. For legal reasons, no news organisation has named the players or the club at the centre of the allegations. But players have been identified on internet chat rooms, especially those used by football fans. This weekend, thousands of fans who believe they know who the players are will gather in bars like this and in football grounds around the country. The fear is that these players will become targets for chants and abuse by rival fans. So even though they can't be identified in newspapers or television reports, their names could still echo around the land.
It's a huge issue in football, it's a huge issue in society right at the moment. There's a guessing game going on. I think a lot of people on the web feel they've worked out which team it is at any rate, and that's going to be part of the equation this weekend on the terraces and in the stands.
It could also be a big issue for broadcasters covering the games.
All the broadcasters and indeed newspapers with photographs of things that go on at these games will have to be very, very careful, because there may be a whole lot of libels of innocent players not connected in reality with this at all.
One club has already moved to stop speculation about its players. Aston Villa today issued a statement saying, "We can categorically confirm that neither Aston Villa nor any of its players are being investigated in relation to the alleged incident in London at the weekend." That could now put pressure on others to distance themselves from a scandal threatening to blacken the name of every club in the land. Harry Smith, ITV News.
A reminder now of tonight's main headlines. A man has been killed in a drive-by machine gun attack outside a health club in Hertfordshire.
7 people have been arrested in the Western Isles of Scotland after a child protection operation.
And a judge gave the Home Secretary a dressing down today over his comments about the man who dug up a speed bump. Finally, hanging around in a plastic box without food isn't everybody's ideal way to spend 6 weeks, but that's what American illusionist David Blaine is doing. There he is. To the amusement of some and the annoyance of others.
Tonight he's 2/3 of the way through his bizarre 44-day stunt, but it's provoking equally bizarre reactions, and it's actually led to a new sport called Blaine baiting. John Draper's by the River Thames tonight.
Well, there he is, David Blaine, this evening in his plastic box. He's been in there for 27 days and 21 hours with no food and just water to keep him going. Rather him than me, and I'm sure you're thinking the same thing. But of course it is his decision. It's his choice to undertake this stunt. What's really surprising is how many people have taken umbrage at him, how many people have got the hump at what he's doing.
If David Blaine thought he'd receive the adoration in this country that he's enjoyed for his stunts across the Atlantic, he's had a rude awakening. The man in the Perspex box has come in for some serious aggravation. But why are people so hostile? They've thrown eggs at him, flown up a model helicopter containing a hamburger to tempt him, shot golf balls from Tower Bridge, and even tried to cut his water and power line. At night they gather underneath and taunt Blaine. On this occasion, a security guard moves in when someone's suspected of throwing fruit, and it all ends rather badly. Another incident, someone throws a lit firework, which falls short and injures a spectator.
I've seen professional, high-powered laser beams, and the guy was trying to aim it straight into his eyes. And, you know, if that hits his retina, it'll burn it out. And that is dangerous.
But why the aggression? Stephen Field was fined £1,000 for climbing Blaine's scaffolding and causing criminal damage to his water supply.
Well, I shouted at David, we don't want you over here. There's real people starving in the world, and you're doing a sick stunt like this.
But some people admire what David Blaine's doing.
No one wants to give no one credit. That's the problem. Everyone's just jealous of everyone. That's true, man. You got to give someone credit when they're going for this.
I think it's nearly as good as magic.
As for what David Blaine thinks about the shenanigans down below, well, we'll have to wait to find out. He comes down in just over 2 weeks. And that means another 2 weeks of enduring those catcalls and insults from the people below him. But of course he is getting a huge amount of publicity out of this, so I suppose at the end of it all, he won't be too unhappy. Back to you.
Thanks, John.
There we are. You can see more on David Blaine's stunt on the Tonight programme with Trevor McDonald. That's on ITV1 at 8 o'clock.
That's it from us. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
ITV National Weather, sponsored by PowerGen. PowerGen, power in good hands.
Hello, good evening. Well, temperatures drop away fairly quickly this evening. We maintain these blustery showers in the far north there, and with clearing skies in places like Scotland down as low as 2 degrees, so inevitably a ground frost. Into tomorrow then, and we'll really notice the difference. It'll be way chillier than it has been of late. In fact, temperatures fairly struggling in the north, just making it into double figures here, and more like 15 or 16 in the sunnier slots in the south. On the face of it, not too bad. Add on this rather stiff northwesterly breeze and feeling all the cooler. So weather-wise tomorrow, it's a mix of sunshine as well as showers. The best of the sunshine for East Anglia as well as the southeast itself. The further north you go, the more likely you are to encounter a shower, sometimes thundery in nature. That's all from me.
PowerGen, power in good hands.